Hurts is still on his rookie contract, which I think would be like 1.9 million against the cap. So they still have like one more opportunity to add more pieces around him before his next contract would kick in. So
yeah, and Howie will do that. He will structure it so he has that extra year, but he's going to have to make the long-term commitment to Jalen Hurts after the season. But
undefeated Wednesday edition of Birds 365 with your Mac guys, McDonald and McMullen. We are joined by Martin Frank from the Delaware News Journal, who shares a press box with Mr. McMullen every single week.
Oh, that's bad news for Martin.
We sit right next to each other too.
Yeah. Well, no, it's usually in between us to keep us apart. Yeah, that's true. To keep us apart. We might swing at each other if Ed's not there.
Are you guys carpooling to Arizona, as a matter of fact?
Yeah, we're leaving right after the show.
Yeah. Let's start with your extensive breakdown of Cameron Dicker, the kicker, who, by the way, is the all-time leading field goal kicker at the University of Texas, which means he beat Justin Tucker, which means he's the greatest kicker of all time. Correct.
Oh, absolutely.
But in all seriousness, how difficult would it be to go into Arizona if Jake Elliott can't kick? And, you know, it's pristine conditions, Martin, out there, but never kicked in an NFL game. It's a high leverage situation. Are you comfortable with Cameron Dicker out there?
Well, it doesn't matter if I'm comfortable with him. It matters.
That's true.
If the Eagles are comfortable. And I don't know. I mean, you have to go back to Jake Elliott's situation. I mean, 2017, I believe he replaced Caleb Sturgis. Am I right?
Yeah. Came off the Cincinnati practice squad.
That's right. So, and I remember he missed a few early, and then in that Giants game, he missed one, and Jason Peters, who's literally twice his size and twice his weight, went up to him and said, "Hey, no more misses." I think he said it a lot more menacingly than I'm saying it now. But then, you know, Elliott hit the 61-yard field goal to beat the Giants, and that kind of sent them on their way towards that Super Bowl run. So you never know. You know, a guy like Dicker, you know, you need a 35, 40-yard field goal in the conditions in Phoenix, which obviously indoors, grass and everything like that. I think he'll be fine.
And sometimes I feel badly when I minimize the kicking game in the NFL, but then I realize the NFL minimizes the kicking game, that nobody's got backup kickers and they just pick them off the street and who's available on the week you need one. Oh, hey, the best of the bad lot. Let me pick them up and sign this guy. So I don't feel bad about it for too long, but maybe I should. So that's why I'll ask this question. The Eagles' special teams so far this year have been poor. Is that a fair way to capitalize what the Eagles' special teams have been? So now you're bringing in a different kicker, and there's probably some feel to kickoff returns and how the guy usually kicks it and how quickly you need to get down and where you're going to avoid the blocks and the like. Does this, if Jake Elliott can't go and Dicker is the kicker come Sunday, can we expect the special teams to even be as good as they've been, which is not good to begin with?
Yeah, not very special teams. You know, I mean, what choice do they have? I mean, I would assume that if, you know, Dicker could probably kick it far enough to get into the end zone, so they're starting at the 25. I mean, you know, if you kicked in college like he did and stuff like that, you can obviously kick it.
He's got a strong leg. He was a kickoff guy. He was a punter. I don't think you'll have a problem on touchbacks, but everything else.
Well, you know, at the very least, you can do that. You don't have to worry about giving up a long return or anything like that. And like I said, I mean, maybe you won't try for a 50-yard field goal or beyond unless it's desperation times. But, you know, and the Eagles like to go for it on fourth down anyway.
Yeah.
So
maybe it helps, Martin. Maybe it helps. You bring up a good point. If you're, you know, 4th and 4 say, but you have Jake Elliott, you'll say, maybe I'll kick this 52-yard field goal, but maybe if you're 4th and 4 with Cameron Dicker, maybe you go for it. And the head coach says, I trust Jalen, I trust Jalen, I trust Jalen. So maybe you trust Jalen more. Maybe it hurt. Maybe it helps. Maybe they get more aggressive. I didn't think of that. That's why Martin's a genius and I'm not. That's why I sit, I can't sit next to him. But
maybe you should be sitting next to him. Maybe some of it will wear off.
Maybe it'll rub off. Yeah, that's a good point though, Martin.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. I mean, they like going for it anyway. Maybe this just takes the guesswork or any kind of second guessing out of it. And he says, going for it. 4th and 4 from the 35. I'm going to pass up that 53-yard field goal and I'm going to go for the first down. Unless it's like 2 seconds left and, you're down by 2 points, then you got to try it. But, you just go for it. I mean, look what they did on Sunday. They were going for it like from 4th and goal from the 3-yard line instead of a field goal like, early in the second quarter. They're already down 14-0. He said, I need a touchdown. I can't have a field goal. And they got it.
Yeah, that was a big play. That was a big play. That was Jalen Hurts forcing his way in the end zone. We talked to Shane Steichen about that yesterday. Yeah. That's kind of been interesting because you're like, well, all right, he got it. He knew the situation. He knew he had to get in. But man, you don't want your quarterback taking that kind of hit at the goal line. And Shane Steichen was talking about that sort of give and take. You get concerned about that stuff at all? We saw it with Carson Wentz back in the day, obviously. Jalen's a little bit different, can protect himself a little bit better. But does that concern you when he puts it all out there? Look, it's big spot, but it's still week 4. It's not that big.
Yeah, I mean, it is a little bit concerning, but you mentioned Carson Wentz, and I think there's a kind of a big difference there. I mean, Carson was a lot more reckless as far as when he took off and taking a hit and everything. He wasn't really good at sliding, or he didn't want to slide. Jalen Hurts is, he doesn't take many hits. I mean, a situation like that, 4th and goal from the 3, you got to get in the end zone. You're going to take a hit. But he doesn't really get hit that often. I know there was one preseason game. He took a late hit out of bounds. I mean, that's really kind of unavoidable. But, you got to win games. And, that's the way it is. Every now and then he's going to have to take one for the team, give up his body and the Eagles just have to cross their fingers and hope he's not hurt, has to come out of the game or miss a game or 2 or something like that. I mean, it happens, but, you also have to win your games. I mean, you can't lay up there at the 1-yard line on 4th down and turn
Very
the ball
true.
over.
That would not look good. That would not look good. Yeah.
But I'll say this about Jalen Hurts, and if you guys disagree with me, please tell me so. This is now his 3rd year starting game for the Eagles. Only 1 full year, tail end of 2 years ago, and the first 4 games of this year. Over the course of those games, which are 4 plus 17 plus 4 is 25 games. I would say over the 25 games, he has become smarter about how to use his running game in the National Football League. When he first started, it was, I'm going to get every inch, every single time, every single play. I'm not going to worry about my own physical condition. He's gotten better in that there are some guys that get to a point, get better, and all they do is go down. All they do is slide. All right, you slid 2 yards before the first down. What were you doing? No, Jalen has gotten to the point where he's really smart in that he knows what he needs to accomplish, get into the end zone, get the first down, give him 3rd and short, whatever else, down in distance. I think he's really smart at this stage, and it may have taken 20-plus games to get there, but to know exactly how and when to sacrifice his body and how and when to do what's most important for the Eagle to be in the best position on the field after his run.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. He doesn't really take unnecessary hits. I mean, He's always kind of avoided that. He'll either slide or run out of bounds, maybe, live to play another play. And that's what you got to do when you're a quarterback. I mean, it's foolish to, just to make yourself susceptible to injuries and stuff like that. And he's done a pretty good job with that. I mean, he'll take a hit because he has to, but it's only because he has to in the situation.
By the way, guys, it's Wednesday, so I feel like I have to do this every week on this show. Defensive Player of the Week, no shock, Hasson Reddick of the Philadelphia Eagles. So, yes, another Player of the Week for the Philadelphia Eagles. So let's talk about
the
Hasson.
Philadelphia Eagle Award winners rather than the NFL award winners is what you're saying.
No. The NFC Defensive Player of the Week. Hasson
no,
Reddick.
I'm calling for a renaming of the award.
Oh yeah.
Since the Philadelphia Eagle gets it every single week is my point.
They get it. It's been on the defensive side, but every week they've had a Player of the Week, and Hasson is the latest. Now, people were a little bit worried, shockingly, after those first two games, and they said, "Where are the sacks from Hasson Reddick? Where are the big plays?" I got to give Nick Sirianni credit. He said they were close before the Washington game, and then bang, everything's coming up Nick Sirianni. I think he had 1.5 sacks in Washington, and now he's got 2 against Jacksonville, 2 forced fumbles, 2 fumble recoveries. I talk about A.J. Brown a lot, Martin, his impact on this team. The upgrade from Jannard Avery to Hasson Reddick, that's a big bump. That's a big bump up.
Yeah, that's AJ Brownish. I mean, it's probably the most underrated upgrade that the Eagles have had during the offseason. I mean, when you look at Jonathan Gannon, the defensive coordinator, and the kind of defense he wanted to play last year, he had Jannard Avery playing in that role that he has Hasson Reddick in. And Avery had 1 sack, I think, in 12 starts.
Yeah.
And, Reddick pretty much wrecked the last 2 games by himself. I mean, it's night and day. I mean, yes, AJ Brown's a huge upgrade over Jalen Reagor and everything, and the Eagles have, taken full advantage of that, but they've also done that on the defensive side. I mean, that's probably the biggest upgrade on defense by far, compared to last year, just like AJ Brown is the biggest upgrade on offense by far compared to last year. So, yeah, I mean, he's been tremendous. And even like the first 2 games where he wasn't getting any sacks, I mean, you can kind of see that he was, affecting the game. He was making things a little bit easier for the other defensive linemen to kind of, make some stops and everything like that. So he was still having an impact, and now he's just taken off. I mean, whatever it is the last 2 weeks that he figured out, he's definitely figured it out. And, Eagles are a dangerous defensive front. I mean, if you're an opposing quarterback, you got to get that ball out quickly, and then, that helps the cornerbacks. I mean, look at the season Darius Slay and James Bradbury are having right now. And, those guys.
Say Bradbury around Kurtz, Martin.
Yeah. The James Bradbury has definitely been playing pretty well too, despite what Bob Grote says.
Exactly right. All right, Martin, I spent part of the first segment of the show today complaining about comparisons between the Eagles and the other teams in the NFL. I think they should sit atop any comparison, power ranking, call it what you want. I think they've been that good for the first 4 weeks. To comp the Eagles to themselves, which has impressed you more, the Eagle offense or the Eagle defense through 4 games?
Yeah, that's a great question. Can I say both?
Yes, but then you have to stop splitting hairs and make a call on one over the other, as slight as the difference may be.
That's when you rip special teams and say, you go
special teams is third. Good job, Johnny Mack. Way to go out on a limb.
I will go offense just because of the jump that Jalen Hurts has made from last year to this year, and the addition of AJ Brown. I mean, last year they were a run-based offense. You knew they had to run the ball, and they were good at it, obviously. But the biggest question is, that you can't win in the NFL unless you're able to throw the ball. And I think Jalen Hurts has answered all those questions so far through 4 games this year. I mean, his improvement has been massive compared to last year. And then you add AJ Brown, and that's made Devonta Smith better, even though the stats kind of been up and down with him, and Dallas Goedert's been a force. Miles Sanders has benefited as well with all the running lanes and stuff that
Yeah.
he's gotten. So, and they've shown they could beat you so many different ways. I mean, last Sunday in like miserable weather, they ran the ball 50 times, gained over 200 yards against the defense that was allowing only 55 per game. But then, they've also thrown the ball, they totally threw the ball all over Washington the week before. I think Hurts had like 280 yards passing in the first half alone, and then they kind of, eased up a little bit in the second half. But, the offense has just been really impressive in every game so far this year.
Over 400 yards in each game. And they've been able to do it different ways as well.
Isn't there a stat like they're the only team?
First team.
One of 7 teams?
There's been 4 teams since 1970 to start 4-0 and have over 400 total yards in each game. So it's been pretty impressive. I agree with Martin, offense over defense for this reason, simple reason. Offense is more important in the modern NFL. So if you have the better offense, is more important than the better defense. So that's my perspective. But coming in, we talked about it with the kicker, but even more so, Martin, injuries on the offensive line, that could change things quickly. And I think in a weird way that weather helped the Eagles when they lost Jordan Mailata, because it became a running game. And Jack Driscoll can go straight ahead like everybody else, but he and Sua Opeta, if they have the pass block, I think there's going to be more issues. How important is it to get Jordan and Isaac Seumalo on the field this week in Arizona?
Yeah, I mean, those guys are good players. I mean, for a reason. And yeah, I mean, exactly what you said. Driscoll did a decent job, but it was pretty much a running game. I mean, even when he first came in, they were still trying to throw the ball a little bit, and it didn't really go that well. His first few snaps and everything weren't the greatest. So yeah, I mean, you're losing a guy like Mailata, who's one of the best left tackles in the NFL. Probably make the Pro Bowl this year, I would think. And Seumalo's been steady at right guard. I mean, you can't. The guy's a veteran. He knows his stuff. I mean, the other offensive linemen and Stoutland, I mean, they all, sing his praises and stuff. So you're going to have a drop off to Sua Opeta. The one thing I was kind of surprised at is they didn't put the rookie Cam Jurgens in there. And I asked Sirianni that the other day, why not Jurgens there? And he said, I guess Sua Opeta has been working there pretty much every day in practice, and Jurgens had to play center pretty much all preseason because Kelsey was out with the elbow injury, so he didn't really have a chance to cross train there, which he's starting to do now, now that Kelsey's back, but maybe he just didn't feel that he was quite ready just yet. Still, I mean, at some point, if it's a long-term deal for Isaac, maybe at some point Jurgens gets in there, but, Sua can do a decent job, but it is a drop-off when you go from Mailata and Seumalo to Driscoll / Dillard and Sua Opeta.
What is Sua Opeta, according to Jason
Tesla
Kelsey?
stock.
He's the Tesla stock of the
which is Elon Musk must not be doing that well. Although he's going to buy Twitter again. So.
Maybe a year ago that was great stock. I don't know about now.
We'll see on Sunday if he's got to be out there and play. All right, Martin. Here's my concern about the upcoming game on Sunday. The Eagles have not seen any quarterback during the regular season or preseason that can move with the football the way that the quarterback of the Cardinals can. Murray he's right. There are 3 guys that are above everybody else in the league. It's Jackson, it's Kurtz, and it's the Cardinals quarterback who can just flat out beat you with their legs. I've watched enough of the Cardinal games to know this year Kyler Murray's still making it up as he goes along. He loves to do stuff out of the pocket and do stuff on the fly. He hasn't turned it up as much as he has in previous years.
No, he's not running very much at all.
He's not.
Yeah.
But when he has, I've seen him make a couple of key plays, get big first downs, much like Jalen Hurts. I think he's gotten much smarter when he runs. how big a factor is this in Sunday's game? Is this something we should be worried about? Because the Eagles have faced basically 2 statues and 2 okay athletic quarterbacks at best so far in their 4 games.
Yeah, I mean, on the one hand, yes, it's something new for them, but on the other hand, I mean, that's what they see every day in practice.
Practice. Wait. Did the Eagles practice?
Theoretically.
Walk through Wednesday.
Walk through Wednesday.
Well, maybe they walk very fast.
You go full speed right up into the snap.
Jalen Hurts can
power
speed
walk,
walk with the
Jalen.
best
Power
of
walk.
them.
So, yeah, I mean, it'll be different. I mean, all you have to do is Google that 2-point conversion that Kyler Murray made against the Raiders a couple weeks ago, where he's like running back all the way to the 25, looking for someone. Then he stops, and then he starts taking off, and then he zigzags his way into the end zone. I think that whole play took like 25 seconds, to get a 2-point conversion. So, yeah, I mean, he's someone you got to, if you're covering, cornerback, you got to stick with your guy longer. If you're a defensive lineman and stuff, you just kind of keep running after him and pursuing. Linebackers going to have to, they're going to have to make a decision one way or the other at some point. Do they go after him? Do they stay with their guy? I mean, that's what makes Kyler Murray that's what makes him dangerous. That's why he's got the $230 million contract. I mean, that's his job, to disrupt defenses and everything like that. So, yeah, it'll be a challenge for sure. One thing I don't see is they won't have certain wide receiver, DeAndre Hopkins. So, maybe that's why Kyler Murray hasn't gone out to as great a start as he has in the past.
Gannon's description was spot on with Murray. He runs around, but he gives up like 20 yards. He'll give up 20 yards and he's got a lot of Fran Tarkenton in him for those old heads, but more of an athlete, just scramble around, but he's not going to run. He's always looking to throw the football, which is interesting. You mentioned his contract, Mark, and I can't let you get out of here. It's still early, but I mean, right now, I would say that Jalen Hurts is better than Kyler Murray. I know people are going to get upset, but it's just an early snapshot. But you mentioned $230.5 million. If I'm Nicole Lynn, who was Jalen Hurts' agent, I'm going in after this season and saying, all right, starts at 231.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what the Eagles are going to have to pay Jalen Hurts? And the bigger question is, are we past, because I'm past, are we past the realization that the Eagles are going to extend Jalen Hurts?
I would like to think so. I mean, I can't see how there's any doubt anymore that he's, their future quarterback and everything like that. Like, when you came into the summer, even before training camp, you're like, okay, well, they still have the 2 first-round picks next year. And if they don't like what they're seeing from Hurts, they can, maybe try to figure out a way to trade up. I mean, obviously, that's not the case. I don't think anybody's asking that question anymore. I mean, I think we already know. So the question is like trying to find a number. And, before the season started and everything, you're like, all right, if they extend Jalen Hurts, maybe it's in the Jimmy Garoppolo range, like 25 to 30 million a year.
That's quaint now.
Yeah, I think that horse has left the barn. It's going to cost him. I mean, it'd be interesting to see what Lamar Jackson gets. He turned down he turned down something.
He's betting on himself. And by the way, he's winning as long as he stays healthy.
He is. But I mean, if you look at it right now, I mean, yes, it's a quarter of the way through the season, not even, but like Hurts is definitely an MVP candidate, and if that's the case, you got to pay those guys like top of the line type of money. So,
Mark, we had don't know if you know him at all. Matt Verderam is a good buddy, does a nice job, covers the entire NFL fan-sided. We had him on a couple of weeks ago. This was, I think, when Eagles were 2-0 before they were 4-0, with Jalen Hurts having 2 more W's to his resume. He said during the offseason, he thought that Burrow and Herbert's ask number had to start at 50. And he said, guess what? Jalen Hurts is working himself into that conversation alongside Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert, who, oh, by the way, is tied with Hurts with playoff victories at 0. At least Hurts has a playoff appearance, which Herbert doesn't yet. So you get my drift. Oh, the number's not going to be 30 or 35 or 40 or 45. It could well be 50 for Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, and it depends on how far the Eagles go. I mean, if they go to the NFC Championship game, if they go to the Super Bowl, it's
NFC Championship. Don't disrespect this team on Birds 365. That is a disappointing end game.
But you have to look at one other thing. Like next year, Hurts is still on his rookie contract, which I think would be like 1.9 million against the cap. So they still have like one more opportunity to add more pieces around him before his next contract would kick in. So
yeah. And Howie will do that. He will structure it so he has that extra year. But he's going to have to make the long-term commitment to Jalen Hurts after the season. Yeah. But you're right. He can structure it so the Eagles don't take the big hit until the following season. Right. And that'll be a big key. And that's what Howie's really, really good at.
So, yeah, I mean, they have a huge window right now this year and next year to really make a run and accumulate a lot of talent and stuff like that. So, and, the next 2 years, I mean, guys like, Fletcher Cox, Brandon Graham, maybe Kelsey retires, so there'll be some money coming off the books too. I mean, they'll be in pretty good shape. I mean, as long as like all the draft picks they've had the last few years start panning out, those guys, in 2024 and beyond, I mean, they could possibly weather signing Hurts to a huge contract as long as that transition from guys like Kelsey to Cam Jurgens, from Fletcher Cox to Jordan Davis, that kind of thing takes place.
Yeah, that helps. M. Frank NFL, Martin Frank, read him, DelawareOnline.com. Martin, before I get out of here, you're not supposed to look ahead, but the Dallas Cowboys are coming up. So are we going to have an unbeaten Eagles team against an unbeaten Cooper Rush in week 6? How much hype is coming into that one if that happens?
I don't know. Don't kill me, but I have a bad feeling about
this Sunday. Bad feeling. Arizona.
Yeah.
They never win in Arizona, by the way.
I'm not there yet, Martin, but I think that the second half of John's question is the one that's going to go by the boards. I think Dak's starting this week. And if he's not starting this week, he's definitely starting next week. I think
Dak he'll definitely be back for the Eagles.
You don't think they have any pause if he keeps winning, if they win again with Cooper Rush? Because Jerry was on his radio show and said Dak isn't ready. Now, he's been wrong when he said he was ready, so maybe he's wrong this time. But if he wins again, you think they put him on the bench and let Dak Prescott lose to the Eagles? That's tough.
Here's the pause. Yeah, Dak, get in there. A momentary pause, and then they'll go back to their quarterback. Because I said this on my CBS show over the weekend. Somebody brought the very same thing up. What if he beats the Rams? If he goes out and throws for 450 yards and 5 touchdowns, that's another story.
He's not going to do that.
Has Cooper Rush wowed you with his play?
No,
Other than the W at the end of the column.
No,
has
he's a game manager.
Done wowed you?
No, not at all.
That's why Dak will be back in there.
Dak will definitely be playing that Sunday night game against the Eagles.
I got one more question for both you guys. And I was racking my brain to ask it, couldn't come up with an answer. I got a half-baked one. I'll see if you Eagle experts are better at remembering things than me. We were talking about Jalen Hurts and getting the contract done and how high is high. When was the last time the Eagles lost a player via free agency that they should have kept, that they wanted to keep, that the player was interested in staying, but just said, well, no, here's my ask number. You won't get to my ask number. I'm going to go take it from somebody else. And when they did, that player played well in their new town with their new team, and the Eagles missed that individual. When was the last time that happened? The Eagles lost a guy who they wanted to keep, but they had a number and they wouldn't go above that number, and the guy got the number elsewhere and still continued to play at a high level. Who would you say is the last guy to do that?
That's a
That's
really
good.
good question.
Yeah, they don't.
Yeah, I was
lose,
racking my brain sitting here thinking
Reggie
about
White.
it.
Yeah, maybe.
Reggie White.
Well, one of them is guaranteed to be between Reggie and today. Was B-Doc.
No, they didn't make a mistake on Brian. I'm sorry. Every Eagles fan can get.
You and I are going to disagree on that.
They didn't make a mistake. That was
Well, I don't think they ever had a number for Brian Dawkins. I just
Yeah.
think they were not bringing him back no matter what.
Yeah.
I mean,
they didn't make a
for
mistake.
free. I mean,
That's revisionist history.
That was.
How do you figure?
Because he was he was an aging, descending player. They made a decision to move on. He wasn't nearly the player he was, but people love him.
He's better than what the Eagles trotted out there at safety that year, and they would have been better if he was in their defensive backfield.
That's just, he's a great player. He's a Hall of Fame player. Everything, give him all the flowers for that. But that was an aging player. You make decisions. You make difficult decisions. Zach Ertz in Arizona, should have got to Zach Ertz, by the way, but we're running out of time. They made, Zach can still play, but they made a decision. They made the right decision.
There's a difference between Zach Ertz and Brian Dawkins. Who took over for Brian Dawkins? Who was their replacement? Zach Ertz's replacement was Dallas Goedert.
No, I hear what you're saying. For a year, he had one pretty good year in Denver, and he was better than what the Eagles had at safety. But you're paying so much. You had to turn it over. You had to turn it over. Is all I'm saying.
But to answer your question, Jody, there could be another player in that category after this year, the running back, Miles Sanders.
Yeah.
I mean, he keeps playing like he is. His price is going up too, and the Eagles don't pay for running backs.
Yeah, they do.
Well, they probably do have a number in mind for Miles Sanders, and if he outperforms that, and some other team gives him that money, I mean, he might go. They might let him go.
And there's a couple guys like that on the Eagles this year. White and Edwards at linebacker. Will they keep them both?
They'll keep one. I think they'll keep one.
That means one's going to walk away, and if the one that walks away, becomes a Pro Bowl level linebacker somewhere else, that's why Howie Roseman gets paid what he gets paid. He needs to make those tough decisions.
He's supposed to be the next guy in. So
I don't even think I'm going to get more Eagles fans riled up. I don't even think those are difficult decisions for Howie. He's like, Martin hit the nail on the head. I'm not paying for a running back. And it's TJ Edwards. It's not a conversation between TJ and Kaiser. Those are easy decisions for Howie.
We'll see. White's a pretty good player. They might be careful with White if you're going to let him walk away. That you decide you can.
They got Nakobe, as Martin said. Yeah. That's Nakobe's job.
Why you drafted him?
It's Cam for Jason. It's Nakobe for Kaiser. It's what's the third?
But let me ask you a Dean question. And we've seen nothing out of Dean. He hasn't played. All he plays is special teams. Which is his more natural position, inside or outside?
Well, it's weak side or Mike. He's a more natural projected weak side linebacker, so it fits as well. He's just not big enough to play Mike at the NFL level.
Okay, all right. Yeah. I think he'd be a better Mike than a week, but we shall see. All right, Martin, we kept you late. Thank you much for sticking around with us. Feel free to smack John on the back of the head when you need to.
Yeah, you won't be the only one after I disrespected Brian Dawkins. Yeah.
All right, brother. Thanks. That's Martin.
All right, thanks for having me.